What's good, guys? So in my effort to feature every single heroic AAT auto solo team on my channel, today we're going to be having a quick look at the ShaakTroopers. Let's do this! Okay, let's get straight into the raid run. Let's actually set the correct team because that's just a random squad, not something I've ever used. Right, where are they? There's my Shaak. Gear 12.0 at this point. Rex, Echo, Arc, and 3PO. No, let's kick Arc out. It's 5s. There we go. There are a couple of formations you can use for this strategy. I prefer this one because my team, especially at this point, were pretty low geared. But you can actually use Cody in 3PO's place. You can use Clone Sergeant, and if you're high enough relic, you can also use ShaakTrooper. Personally, I'm not a big fan of ShaakTrooper because he doesn't really bring anything to the table when it comes to raids. You don't get his turret, so all you really have is just his basic, which does a little bit more damage, and that's that. Whereas with Clone Sergeant, obviously he grants TM to himself. Cody's got an AoE as well as mass assists, so really Arc is probably the worst of the options because these 3PO brings in more mass assists, more turn meter control, and does a better job of shutting down General Grievous in my opinion. This is probably the more difficult of all of the phases. Grievous obviously will get a fair few of his attacks off. You keep bringing back those annoying droids. You're at no risk of dying because obviously when they hit you due to Shaak, you're going to gain all of that counter. So as a result, you're just going to kill whoever hit you in the first place. As evident right there, just get going straight down. And as the raid goes along, obviously Rex is going to land those massive, what people call it, Rexecution, super shot. There's so many little terms for it, but it does so much damage. It's absolutely crazy. And this is probably one of the easier, more accessible heroic AAT solo teams in my opinion. Obviously, I demonstrated the Rex team before, and not Rex team, Hux team for First Order before, and a lot of people will have that eventually due to the fact that you're gonna have to get one of the Galactic Legends sometime or other. But obviously, it's going to take a while to get Hux unless you're ready to whale out. I mean, I'm a real hardcore player myself. I don't whale, but I'm a hardcore player. My Hux is still like 5.5 stars, so it's going to be a long time before I'm able to actually do it. So this, for me, is what I personally use when I actually remember to physically attack the tank. This is my preferred lineup as well, because 3PO just makes it so much more comfortable for me. My Cody's trash. My Clone Sergeant is kind of meh. You know, there's a risk that he could end up dying from one of those big AoEs, or if the tank cannon decides to target him, he would have a decent shot of actually dying, whereas 3PO at like 12.1, 12.2, something along those lines, no risk whatsoever. I could plug in Arc if I wanted to. He's like relic 5, so I would have no trouble there either. But yeah, my Cody's like gear 7, so that would just be an absolute no-go option for me whatsoever. You can see Grievous is nearly down here. Very, very simple. I don't think this team is actually as fast as Hux, for that matter. I believe my record with Hux is just over 11 minutes on full auto. The fastest I've seen on any ShaakTrooper is around 12. I believe Arnold did a 12-minute run. So to my knowledge, Hux is the fastest of all the heroic solo teams. But then when you've got a damage dealer like Executioner Relic 7, it's going to be pretty crazy for damage. There we go. Phase 1 is down nice and quick. Phase 2 doesn't really take long at all. You're pretty much relying though on Echo to land that big grenade to take down all the turrets, because a lot of the time they'll just randomly target all over the bloody place. Whereas obviously this is one of those spots where Cody would have helped, or Sergeant would have helped, because Cody's got another AoE of his own. Sergeant also AoE, so those would probably be more preferable than 3PO in this particular phase. In fact, I think 3PO is only really ideal for phase 1 and to a degree phase 3, but yeah, if you do have a good Cody or a good Sergeant, honestly, I would plug them in 3PO's place. I just don't have that option at the minute. I will gear them because obviously the General, the 125th Legion, must show some love to the clones regardless of which Legion or battalion they're from. So I will gear them at some stage, but I've got too much to do with my First Order at the moment. And you can see just how quick we're ripping this tank to pieces here. Over 10% on the first topple. That is pretty crazy, and it's going to get bigger as the battle goes along because Rex is going to charge up his big super shot. the longer the battle goes because more clones are attacking, which is another one of those positives for using any other clone in this actual lineup other than 3PO, because you've got another clone attacking, ramping up Rex even faster. Here we go, we've nearly done another whole 10% here. A nice little bit of TM boost there. Another big shot. Very, very nice. Almost 25% down already in 2 topples. They're going to get there before it gets back up. Just. Oh, wow. Look at all those extra assists there. Beautiful. Yeah, this is such a fun team to actually build, and I imagine a lot of new players are going to go in this direction as soon as they possibly can. Getting to Shaak's node is probably quite difficult for most, but you know, as a new player, I would recommend you go to Bugs first, transition into Padme from that point, and that's really, I mean, Padme is 1/2 of the actual unlock for General Skywalker anyway, so that's the kind of point where you would be farming these characters. Kind of, you know, drip feeding them gear and bringing them up with whatever store currency you can spare. So you will end up with this team fairly early if you're going the optimal route, in all honesty. Obviously, if you're a Kraken or Whale, you're just going to go straight for Resistance or First Order anyway. Get one of those crazy Galactic Legends as early as you possibly can. But that's not an option for most, so you will probably end up with this team earlier than any other solo team if you're particularly new to the game. Look at this, 50%. Wow, look at that for a shot. Nearly 6% in a single shot. It actually may have been a fraction over 6%. But phase 2 is all but done. Phase 2 is probably the more tanky of the phases as well. 3 and 4 in particular absolutely melt. And clones have always been good in 4. A lot of early game players will remember the glory days of Princess Zodi. That was a Zeta Cody lead, I believe, and you had all of the clones at the time because we didn't have ARC back then. So we had all the clones, and we I think we kicked out Rex in favor of Princess Leia, and that was the lineup. And it could actually solo the entire phase 4. But obviously that was like pre-Gear 12, if I remember right. I can't remember Gear 12 being around back in them days of the early heroic AAT. So yeah, clones have always kind of excelled in here, and you could use them in phase 2 as well. So it's absolutely no surprise that once Shaak T arrived in the game, and the likes of the other clones that have arrived, things have just got so much more impressive. When I say other clones, I'm kind of referring to their reworks, because they're essentially brand new outside of the actual inclusion of ShaakTrooper. I'm still hoping we're going to get some more clones at some point. With the Clone Wars back now, it would be a prime time for CG to bring us another one of those clone legions, clone battalions, something along those lines. Give us Bad Batch, give us anything that would just give us more options here, because obviously Shaak has kind of lost all of the clones outside of Sergeant and Cody, because Anakin's taken them all. There we go, phase 2 is down. Phase 3 should absolutely melt. It takes a second to get going because sometimes the AI is just a bit stupid and targets all of the side droids in a really annoying loop for a little while until it actually gets them down, remembers, hey, there's the actual boss in the middle that we should probably do something about him. Yes, crush and make them suffer. It's not going to happen because Shaak T and her ShaakTroopers are going to absolutely slaughter. This is exactly what I mean. Look at this. They're all shooting the side droids. Amazing AI. If you're playing it yourself, you might want to just click the droid, the guy in the middle, the rocket B2, and then walk away. But you don't have to. You can easily do it on auto anyway. But it'll just speed it along a little bit for you. You'll shave like 30 seconds off of your time. Look at this, nearly 10% already. There we go. The 10% marker is passed. That tank is gearing up for one of his big shots. It's not going to do anything. It isn't going to do anything. They're nearly always going to be targeting 5s, and most people will prioritize Relic in 5s quite early due to the sheer amount of stat boost that he's going to give the team if he sacrifices in other modes. But it just so happens it makes him so damn tanky in this raid that nothing can kill him, so it's quite awesome actually. That cannon can shoot him as many times as it wants. The bombing runs, the actual tanks when they're up and working can shoot him as often as they want, and he's never gonna die. So sacrifice doesn't even come into it. You're not gonna really need any of the Zetas in particular for this. It's just an absolutely beautiful team. It really is. I can't even remember what Shaak Zetas do, in all honesty. I'm trying to think off the top of my head if you are going to need any of these at all. I'm absolutely positive you don't need any of the clone ones. But yeah, I mean, I can't actually remember off the top of my head. ShaakT's ones. Let me look that up real quickly on my phone while this raid run is going on here. I'm going to boot that up because I actually just don't remember. Can't remember what they do. Look at that. Nearly 50% gone already. Another huge shot for Rex. The troops are well and truly supercharged by this point, and there is just nothing this raid can do. It's become so obsolete. They really should just add a sim button for Heroic AAT now, because it's just well past its prime. People are actually soloing the Heroic Sith raid now with the Treyarch's Order team. They've just put in the new Kylo instead of Unmasked Kylo, and that's going down now. It's absolutely crazy. So yeah, this is a long gone in regards to challenge, that's for sure. Right, I'm just gonna get my ShaakT up here. My mind's just gone totally blank. I can't remember what her zetas are. Right. Clone troopers recovering health and protection when they attack out of turn. I mean, that's not bad to have at all. I wouldn't say it was essential. Oh yes, the bottom one is probably ideal then, the unique, because that's the one that gives the retribution. So I would go for that one, particularly if you're lower geared. But the leadership I wouldn't say was remotely needed. Handy if you're very, very low in gear, but you're not going to need it otherwise. And you won't need any of the clone stuff, because I've said sacrifice isn't coming into play, tactical awareness doesn't really come into play. You're just going to absolutely slay things. Counter is really the only thing you're going to need. That's going to come in very handy getting through Phase 1 due to the amount of attacks you get and how often Grievous can bring back those bloody droids. Here we go, Phase 4. Time to wrap this up. When it wants to get here. I hate that droid. Facing him in GOTB. No fun. Right, this is probably the easiest of phases. It melts so quickly. Look at that, down in one grenade. Absolutely beautiful. And now we're just going to absolutely swarm it. Won't take very long. And we just got basically, the thing is, it's just charging Rex up again, because it obviously doesn't carry over phase to phase. If it did, I dread to think the sheer amount of damage you could do by the time you got to phase 4. All those attacks by those clones would just be absolutely astronomical. That's never going to kill you because you've got so many buffs. You're probably always going to have retribution on you as long as you've got that zeta. And yeah, that is kind of the end. As soon as the grenade drops, down goes the tank once again. And clean up. Yeah, that super shot's still not quite delivering the goods. By the time it does, this phase is probably already dead because it's just not a tough phase. This was always the easy phase. I remember in the early days for Heroic AAT, anytime we'd get to this point, I would miss out because like one guy would solo the whole thing while I was still finishing my phase 3 run. I'd be doing Chirpatine or something, cleaning that up, and then somebody would have just completely wiped this out. It was always the quick melt phase. Phase 2 went down quite fast as well because everybody had like a droid team or something for Rebels. There we go, down you go. Rex should start to pop now, yeah, around 2.5% there, nearly 3. Those big swarms, absolutely gorgeous once you got that translate around and everybody's assisting. Definitely not long for this to go. We've got about a minute, I think, and this will be over. When it comes to modding, I suppose I should point this out. When it comes to modding, you don't need to do anything specific at all. Just the standard mods you would use. This is the same mods I would be using in my 501st team at this point. Yeah, and I don't have Rex modded for health. Not Rex, sorry. Vibes modded for health. I've actually got him for offense and I think it's offense and defense, just so that he's passing all that extra offense in my arena team. So you're not going to have to do anything specific for this at all. Just whatever you've got on them, they're gonna mow it down. So, all right, 30% to go. Rex should start doing 5% plus on his shots by now. Oh, that was a good one. Very nice. 20% left. Pointless bombing run. I remember when that used to actually scare me. That used to come around and you'd be desperately trying to get a buff on your team before that was due and praying that they didn't actually expire as the time it came to actually drop on your team. And now it's just, oh wow, it's the first time that Echo didn't actually topple the tank with a grenade. Amazing. But yeah, it was. I used to really fret that. I never ever liked when that bombing run would come, and by this point it just doesn't matter anymore. This team is so smothered in buffs, as you can see. All right, one more shot from Rex and this will be over. Boom! And that's it. So simply pick your favorite 5th member and hit the auto button. Congratulations, you're first. It's that simple. As long as you're winning the lottery in where you're going to finish, because a lot of people are going to solo these days, you're going to get first place and you're not going to have any difficulty doing so. Hope this video helps you guys out, and until next time, we out here.